quickly as the Kindred, and especially when we look towards the split map that we have for JDG and LGD. JDG's priority is going to be down towards this bottom side where they're incredibly strong, especially as talked about with that Ashe and Leona combo, whereas LGD will be looking to play towards that top side, enable Langx and have that push power from that Kayle into the Ornn matchup to secure early scuttle crabs.
So when we look at these compositions then, I'm seeing a lot of proactive ability here for JDG. When you look at their beyond level 6, they could just make things happen on the flip of a coin. The second they want to, LoKen blasts his ultimate out. Yagao can fly down to whatever side of the map he needs to be and start these fights off.
I'm taking it even back a step further. That level 6 point where Yagao can match those roams coming through from xiye. This is going to be a big issue, especially if you're Yagao, you can't push out that lane. He's going to need some help coming through from Peanut early to enable him to activate his level 6.
Level 6 is going to be a key moment on both sides of the board, but we can't forget Langx has a Kayle in the top side, so the longer this game goes on, the better it looks for Langx. He'll be able to have so much impact if he can get towards that level 16 mark and get himself rolling there. JDG, they're not going to want to let that happen. They're going to want to get things rolling way earlier and fight for these dragons. Looking at the compositions, I can see a lot of mid-game team fighting ahead of us. It's JDG here against LGD, and I'm keeping my eyes on Kanavi up against Peanut, the two kings of the jungle in the LPL, as we kick off our second semi-final.
JDG 加油！勇者无畏，愈战愈强，希望你们打出好成绩。LGD 加油！
We are on to Summoner's Rift. Our second semi-final begins. Both of these teams desperate to make it to the World Championship. For LGD, it's been 5 years since they made it to the World Championship. For JDG, they've never made it at all. They would love for this to be the year that they can prove themselves on an international stage. But first, they got to take down LGD.
I do like the composition that JDG have in this game, though, to fight against LGD. When you talk about simplicity standards, JDG have it all. Where you got this strong team fight, you've got Yagao who can play against these early roams coming through from xiye, and Kanavi on a carry jungler, which just sits so well with JDG. And when we talked about what's the issues with JDG, it's those early game moments where they fumble the play, they're not quite able to get the ball rolling in their favor. Well, they don't have to play hyper-aggressive in the early stages. They can wait till their mid-game where they're online, and LGD don't really have too many tools to fight against them in those early stages.
And with this Kindred locked in as well, this feels more like the JDG that we saw in spring, where it is going to be Kanavi on a carry jungler. Here in summer, we saw JDG leaning towards more of a utility style as Yagao is getting bullied out of this lane in the mid lane. But we saw Kanavi going a little bit more utility in the jungle. It feels good to see him on these carries, though.
I'm looking at the pathing from these two junglers, though. xiye is able to push in early at this at level 3, and I'm curious to see as Peanut starts to path towards his top side, if we'll end up having a gank with xiye towards the top lane. Something like a dive could work beautifully at level 3.
Got a bit of a all-in here from LvMao, going to get pulled in by Mark as the minions haven't gone down just yet, but this is heavily in favor of JDG as they're trying to finish off the kill. Volley not available. Ignite! Not quite enough.
Already, though, you can see the dominant duo of LoKen and LvMao trying to put their stamp on this lane. And now you can continue this pressure, turn it into those turret plates, and when Kanavi wants to, get those early dragons.
Well, I thought Kanavi was going to go for a 1v1, but he's got his eyes on the top lane here. Langx doesn't get knocked up, though. He zooms all out of abilities. It's on Kanavi. Flash comes out from Langx. Are they going to follow for the dive here? Looks like the answer is yes. The dance of arrows out, and Kanavi gets first blood.
Fantastic pathing from Kanavi. Realizing that this early stages, as we talked about, Peanut will want to play towards this top side, so Kanavi instead gets that early gank towards the top lane, beats Peanut to that top side of the map, and is able to secure that first blood.
Fantastic start to the game for JDG, and let's just remember, Peanut's the first blood king here in the LPL. He's the guy that usually starts the charge. This time around, it's Kanavi putting his best foot forward, and JDG off to an early game advantage. That's not something I was expecting to say coming in today, Dan.
And that's what we talk. Oh, actually, we might be getting a little bit more as Kanavi's going to move across towards this bottom side, pick up the second scuttle. But definitely when we look at Kanavi, he isn't actually good at these first bloods usually. He only has a 41%, I think it was, early first blood rate. And that's not what we expected from JDG, especially the prowess that Kanavi has been able to show in these early games back in spring. But summer just hasn't quite gone his way so far.
Peanut the opposite end of those statistics, but let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. It's just one kill in favor of JDG right now. It's very convenient, though, that the kill goes onto the Kindred, because you want to get that Kindred ahead. You want to get some items in Kanavi's pocket. If he can get the ball rolling, he'll be a terror in the mid-game. But when we look across the compositions here, as we mentioned in Champ Select, so much of this is going to rely on level 6. You can see the first Drake is going to be spawning in about 30 seconds, Dagda. And these are both teams that love to fight around those Drakes.
The problem here, though, is that JDG have such a strong bot lane. You can already see that shove is coming in massive for them. They've even managed to get a back off early here for themselves. LoKen just waiting for that item to come through, but with that push power, it's very easy for Kanavi to play towards these early dragons, and Peanut's going to be lacking a little when it comes to help to secure this bot side river.
Secure the bot side river is exactly what JDG are doing right now. They've moved in. You can see the supports there as well. LoKen has reset to make sure that he's going to be ready for the Drake. Already got himself tier 2 boots as he moves back into the lane. And you can see Peanut's on the top half of the map right now. That might signal that JDG can make a play.
And we were highlighting earlier on the decision-making when it came to runes for Kramer. Usually we see the fleet footwork coming through for the Jhin to help secure that early lane phase, especially with that short range. You can get quite a few volleys chunking you out in the early stages. And I actually don't like that Kramer's gone towards the lethal tempo, especially in a matchup like LoKen and LvMao, who like to push aggressively, like to trade aggressively. The fleet footwork would have been a far better call here for Kramer.
Yeah, the tempo definitely looking towards more damage later in the game once you get to those team fights. The attack speed, while obviously Jhin doesn't get much of the actual attack speed himself, scales in terms of damage instead. Peanut going to continue to just farm up a Storm here though, and even though he's on this Lee Sin, he's not been very proactive in the early game. He's just been looking for camps, and he's built himself somewhat of a CS lead.
And this is going to be Peanut waiting for xiye. xiye has hit level 6. The issue though is he actually hasn't backed. Usually we see Twisted Fates back around that 5.5 minute mark so they can recall, have full health when they hit level 6 and very quickly get out onto the map. xiye though, not able to do so, means that now he's going to be a little bit late and won't be able to play around Peanut as early.
And Kanavi has just been running around the map. This will be another Scuttle Crab going his way. It's Peanut on the bottom half of the map. He's got a ward down on the red buff, but he was a little bit early to grab it for himself. And I'm curious what Peanut is looking towards. I felt like maybe he was going to try and make a play on the bottom side of the map there. I'm surprised at how quiet Peanut is being, but as we said before, so much of the plays in this game are going to be down to once people have those ultimates available.
I think the biggest issue for Peanut in this game is he just doesn't have the support of xiye and Mark in the same way. Mark hasn't been able to get out of that bottom lane and try and make these plays alongside Peanut where he likes to invade, get aggressive. And same when we look at xiye. xiye only just hitting that level 6. He's been pushed in fairly, or at least matching the push power from Yagao. So these early plays have been stilted for the moment.
And we see an attempt on the bottom side there, but as Mark throws out the anchor, everyone from JDG has already recalled. Kanavi gets to the bottom side, grabs himself the red buff. He was spotted on that ward though, so now Peanut has knowledge of where Kanavi is, but he's still a level behind right now.
And there's what we talked about as well with JDG securing that early dragon is playing around LoKen and LvMao's early pressure. Like oftentimes these first dragons don't actually result in fights because of how well JDG can use the pressure the dominant duo picks up.
And so with the way that this early game is going, Dagda, I'm feeling like this is going to come down to the team fights in the late game. And when we look at both of these teams, that's kind of the identity that we've seen over the last few weeks, is late game team fighting is really where it all is for both.
And there's a bit of a difference between the two. Because LGD defined by team fights, yes, but their engages in the regular split weren't great. Now this has massively changed in playoffs, but still they need to try and find these good engages against JDG. My biggest issue is their composition doesn't have a lot.
Spotted on a sweeper, but Kanavi goes over the wall anyway. Takes a good chunk of damage, but he's just going to force xiye out into his own jungle, smite away the chickens, and Yagao gets all of the popcorn chicken for himself. Now onto the Rift Herald they go.
And this is JDG playing off of what we just talked about. JDG's CC train is so incredibly potent and makes it very difficult for LGD to manage. LGD need to have xiye making these picks early, allowing Langx to scale up so he can just 1v5 the entire team. LGD do not have that early game aggression that they become such a staple of their play.
We are starting to get to the point though where players across the board will have ultimates. Kanavi was spotted on a ward, so he does get the Herald, but Peanut knows what's going on right now. Could move in to try and make a play in the top side onto Zoom.
But look at this, Yagao's already read it. Dipping in towards this left side, he's going to pick up the blue, but it means that even if something happened up towards his top side, there's no way LGD are getting out of that unscathed.
Peanut should be able to grab this crab for himself, but both junglers know exactly where their opponent is, and that should mean that nothing too much going to happen up on the top side of the map. xiye finds the opportunity to just shove it in this mid lane since Yagao went over to get the blue buff. Yagao will eventually make his way over, but xiye might just be able to grab a plate for himself.
I'm looking at this next dragon though. With the back timing from LGD's bot lane, they should have control of this river, and especially when xiye is able to control this mid lane tempo as well. I want to see Peanut now moving over to secure an early dragon for LGD as well. Because right now, JDG's win condition is setting up these early dragons so they can force fights at that fourth Drake, that third Drake, before Langx has really come on rank.
And most importantly as well, when you look at the items in the pockets of these AD carries, LoKen didn't get to finish his recall just now, which means Kramer is going to be sat there on his tier 2 boots and a BF sword. He's feeling real good for this fight.
Yeah, and with everyone on JDG moving up towards that Rift Herald, that's the trade-off here, is that now LGD have been able to get that quick back off of Kramer pushing in. So let's see if they can turn it into a bit more of an advantage for themselves. But Kanavi is already down this bot side, and you need to have xiye making his way down to this bottom lane as well to set up a play alongside Peanut.
So Kanavi's just been spotted on a ward as he moves towards this bottom side of the map. Peanut already on the scene, and by the looks of things, starting this dragon off already. He has complete and utter vision control, but in fact, perhaps moving to try and make a place somewhere on the map instead. Just going to get some deep vision. I wasn't sure if he was going to wrap around towards the bottom lane.
There's also a ward on that bottom side that may have spotted LoKen backing, so this is why LGD are very quickly starting up this dragon. Is a man advantage for LGD right now.
Kanavi can jump over and go for a steal if he wants to. The Dance of Arrows available to get over the wall, but goes down way too quick. Peanut grabbing that dragon for himself, and that's one apiece now when it comes to the Drakes. And LGD actually have a very tiny gold.
Now, this is where it's not really about the gold lead just yet. Both sides are waiting for their spikes. Mid-game for JDG.
In the mid lane onto xiye. Kanavi's in on the action as well, but xiye's going to be all right. Manages to pop a ghost with his unsealed spellbook and get out of the play. Now, Peanut trying to extend this one into the likes of Market. It's LoKen who's in trouble. Nice arrow from him, but the route followed up. Nicely done by Kramer. Now, the answer. The TP came through from the top laner and on towards Peanut. Should be able to ward hop over the wall, though. And it looks like all of that leads to nothing.
Fantastic from LGD to avoid all that. Langx didn't TP, so he's able to get these turret plates and farm on the top side, and JDG committed so much to that play.
LvMao perhaps looking for more. Yagao over here as well as Kanavi going to drop the Herald on towards this mid lane. So JDG finding something to answer for the plates that Langx is trying to take in the top side of the map. It's going to be 4 plates in the mid lane for JDG, so they actually somehow find an advantage here.
It's spread between a lot of folks though. So JDG not getting that onto someone like LoKen, specifically, or even Kanavi, makes it a little bit less nice for JDG, especially when you're answering with Langx getting those solo plates in the top lane.
Just take a second here, Dagda, and take a look at the itemization on our AD carries, because LoKen on Ashe has got himself a BF sword. Now, usually you see the Blade of the Rune King first into something like a Hurricane, but there's an older build where people used to go Comet and they go Essence Reaver first. That could be something we're looking at here. Or perhaps just going for the Infinity Edge.
Well, it's definitely the Essence Reaver. It just picked up that Caulfield's Warhammer as well, so wants to be heavily using these volleys in the lanes phase and even to shove in a little bit in these lanes. And then when we look towards that ultimate, getting as much CDR as possible to fire out those ultimates all the time. Because LGD, we talked about how when they get to the later portion of the game, want xiye in a side lane, Langx off as well where he's farming up. So the ability of JDG to engage off of these long-range enchanted crystal arrows is going to be far superior in closing out against LGD.
Do you know, Dagda, it's not been the most action-packed early game I've ever seen in my life, but part of me deep down is a little bit happy about that for game number 1, because it feels like both these teams not only are testing the waters, but they're getting themselves set up for team fights later on in the game. And when I think of LGD and when I think of JDG, that's what I want to see out of these teams. That is their biggest strength, is the team fight, the 5v5s around Baron specifically. And I feel like this is going to be a game with plenty of that kind of action.
Yeah, and we are certainly going late game, especially when you look at the LoKen build with the Essence.
Nicely done by Kanavi as he continues onto Peanut. Dashes out though, continue down.
Yeah, Peanut's going to be fine here, but definitely we are going late game. I mean, it's why LoKen's going as well for this Essence Reaver build. Kramer, with this Jhin, is going to want 3 items. Same when we look at Langx in this top lane. So both teams willing to handshake, apart from Kanavi, who wants to slap.
Yeah, Kanavi wants to grab himself a kill onto Langx, or at least force an ultimate. We'll just trade very heavily, but now he gets to move back up towards this top side. He's going to be here with Zoom. I don't think they'll finish a turret just yet, but certainly putting some pressure on the top side of the map in the meantime. Let's move in towards this bottom lane.
They are going to try and make something happen with xiye. Both teleport and that destiny. Here we go.
LoKen's in trouble here. Doesn't have his flash available. Great ult, but there is a huge CCJ to follow. Peanut with the kill. And now LvMao finds himself alone underneath this tower. Misses the cannon as well. It's a disaster for LvMao. Goes straight on towards Peanut, but it's xiye that is tanking the tower, and this means it'll be a nice, easy kill for the side of LGD, and a perfectly executed dive.
They do trade the mid lane turret, though, answer for the bot side. So trade up in favor of LGD. And they were finally able to make that play work while those TPs were still down from JDG, where they tried to make that play happen on the bottom side.
But while they do get a tower in the bottom lane, JDG got 2 towers elsewhere.
And a TP coming on bot side.
Oh, we got a TP coming out. It's from Yagao, who's trying to make the play here. TP being answered, but it's knocked up, denied by the Call of the Forge God. And now he's here. His own horn has been sounded, and he wants himself a kill. xiye might just get solo killed by Zoom.
Zoom manages to crack down on xiye, put him in his place. But Kanavi on the top side doing exactly what Kanavi does best. Getting in, stealing away these camps, but has found Langx.
He's going to find himself a 1v1 against the enemy Kayle, but Kramer is here as well. The curtain call finds it slow, and there's no way out for Kanavi. Kramer, the god of death after all.
And 1 for 1, and we're trading back and forth once again. So LGD holding on to this minuscule lead, but with Kanavi dead and Dragon in just 7 seconds, that should be an LGD objective.
Beautifully done here by LGD, and perfect timing, as you say. But Yagao now having to move up to the top side. Bear in mind, he doesn't have his TP available. He just used that bot.
Exactly, and especially when Langx still has his TP available and has just hit that level 11, this is starting to be where LGD, with all this early game shenanigans, able to hold tight against JDG, are getting to a point where they are strong.
LGD, going to find themselves somewhat of a lead in the early game, but once again, the gold difference is just 300 right now. This is about as close as they come. The Dragons, though, in favor of LGD. When we get to the later stages, those resistances are going to be so crucial.
We are looking at JDG, though, who are in a situation with Ashe going for this Essence Reaver build where she's going to be super strong off of 3 items as well. Yagao is now hitting his power spike on this Galio, and Kanavi, soon to have that Black Cleaver completed, will be able to take a lot of these fights. So these early Barons, and especially this next Dragon, are going to be favoring JDG.
So importantly, there is a Rift Herald in the pocket of Kanavi still, so we'll have to see where he's going to drop that one, but it looks like potentially bottom lane could be the players. He's moved towards that half of the map right now, but xiye answering in the top side here. I wasn't sure if he was going to try and force a play onto Yagao, but with Ghost available, you'd expect Yagao to be safe.
LvMao moving in towards this bottom side, though. You can see JDG are getting a little bit concerned about Langx and want to try and slap him down nice and quick, especially when you have Kanavi on this bottom side as well. Bot lane turret, as you said, with that Rift Herald seems to be the protocol.
And we're now seeing somewhat of an issue here for both of these teams, where when we look at the successes of these teams across the course of this year, it's been reactive play. It's been, oh, you're going to make a play on bot? Well, we're all going to TP to the bottom lane and we're going to outplay you. But when you've got two reactive teams up against each other, you end up with quite a quiet early game.
Well, the thing was, we did see some early plays come through from JDG. LGD just did a good job of avoiding them. And now again, JDG are looking to, instead of going for these plays where, all right, we're TPing to find kills, we're going to take these outer structures, push these waves back in against LGD, and make this composition of LGD that wants to play through side lanes a little bit more difficult to operate.
And that's the key thing, is with that third tier 1 taken, JDG have now been able to take a bit more control of the rest of the map. They'll be able to push their vision line in a little bit deeper than LGD are able to. And when it comes to the next Dragon, and when Baron is on the map in a minute's time, that's when you can expect both of these teams to try and fight for these objectives. JDG could find themselves some advantage.
But this is where JDG has been strongest. In this 20 to 25 minute mark has been where JDG explode onto the map, picking up a bunch of turrets, team fights, victories across the board. And I get a little bit worried for LGD, who haven't really been able to... Just watch it out for that Zenith blade.
Hang on, here we go. Fight's going to go underway. Peanut locked up, knocked up, but he gets out with his life here. Mark with a triple knockup, though, to answer the play. And Kramer trying to dish out the damage. Kanavi with a Lamb's Respite keeps himself safe. Zoom is quite happy to tank up this curtain call. With the Destiny used, we'll see if xiye is going to make a play, but it looks like he just decides to stay top lane.
LGD, it's a win if they avoid those fights. Langxing's still fiery. He's still getting these CS. He's getting damage onto this turret bot side, and he's encroaching on that level 16. LGD want to keep denying JDG from accelerating, and right now these plays are just about managing that.
Yeah, LGD holding on, almost turning that play on its head, to be quite honest, as Kanavi moves to the bottom side of the map. Langxing able to grab so much in these side lanes, and while they're even in CS between the top laners, the CS is far more valuable on Langxing.
And it's even the map state. JDG now need to deal with this push to bot side of the map. They can't go and threaten things like this Baron for the moment. They can't move in and get vision control in that top side jungle. And now with this Dragon in just over a minute, we'll get to see that, hey look, LGD, we can pass this Dragon up. We don't need to fight JDG right now.
Kanavi right now is moving around this Baron area, trying to get some kind of vision control of the top half of the map, moving towards the mid lane as Kramer is going to be throwing out some traps here. When we look at the AD carries, Kramer has found himself a very sizable lead. And I'm not entirely sure where that gold has come from.
I mean, look, it's just been slow farming, slow picking up these waves. You can see he's got about a 20 CS lead for himself, and that kill as well. So slowly but surely racking this gold stacks up. However, we're starting to see teams funnel in towards this bottom side now as they get control of mid, and then we'll move over towards Dragon. Again, LGD just want to deny fights. They do not need to fight JDG at this Dragon.
JDG would love to go for a fight somewhere, but I have to say, despite the fact we have an Ashe and a Galio, we've not seen that much proactive action out of JDG. I would have loved to see more from LoKen just throwing out these arrows, Yagao trying to follow up on the engages to just force something to happen.
It's really difficult though, unless you catch out like xiye or Kramer. But with where xiye's positioned top side of the map, Kramer positioned so far back, everyone else has a decent amount of mobility that makes it hard to lock them down. So JDG instead happy to just take the Dragon, but LGD doing the correct call, getting more gold onto their team by getting these top lane towers and foregoing any sort of mid-game shenanigans.
So we've got a bit of a farm fest on our hands here as xiye grabs himself that top lane tower. And now look at this, LGD grouping and starting to invade on this top half.
Look, I am giving this game...
Oh, Kanavi managed to grab his blue buff there. Arrow goes wide, slow coming out, LvMao trying to engage the play here. Peanut's low and will be taken down. Kanavi with his second of the game. Grabs himself a stack as well.
It's right in front of Baron though. Langxing not level 16. JDG will have cracked open the opportunity to take this start.
This would be massive. A 22-minute Baron if they're able to get it. Peanut is down, so there's no smite available. Langxing teleports into play, locked up by LvMao, but there's not much follow-up from the rest of the team. Now, the ultimate comes out to keep him safe, but LoKen's going to be able to finish this kill off to start off another play here. JDG find 2 picks, but they can't find the Baron.
And that's more important. JDG needed that Baron to force LGD to deal with the threat of these pushes. Now though, oh hang on, LoKen.
Oh, LoKen could be in trouble here. Got spotted. Yagao there to block. Look at this. The teamwork. Just group hug everyone. Keep him alive.
Conga line form real quick so we don't end up getting caught out here. But still, LGD, although they give over some kills, denying that Baron is far more important. They just want to still get Langx to that level 16 point before they hit. And you can see how much damage Langx can churn out if he's allowed. Peanut, unfortunately, the sacrificial lamb here. And with JDG collapsing so well, they end up finding these picks.
Sacrificed or stepped too far forwards. We'll let you at home decide that one. But Peanut getting caught out there was dicey for LGD. But once again, LGD find the correct answer to quell the aggression from JDG.
And I give this game about 5 more minutes before we really see LGDs trying to strike back. Langx gets seen nearly hitting that level 15 mark. He's going to try and farm up towards the bottom side. Peanut even gifting over the Grump. You can see LGD are trying to rack up the experience on this Kayle. And at that stage, with xiye playing in the side lane, Langx grouping with the rest of LGD, you can create a lot of pressure through the wave clear with Kramer and Langx, and then this side lane pressure with xiye.
So I'm curious, Doctor. We're talking about the late game team fights here for both of the teams. What do those team fights actually look like? Because on the side of JDG, it makes a lot of sense with an Ornn on the front line. Like, it's pretty standard front to back. But LGD don't really have that much of a tank.
It's very much about trying to use xiye as this engagement.
Baron is just trolling Kanavi right now.
It's for LGD trying to use xiye as this engage tool, trying to TP in towards the back line. It's why we see him picking up this early Zhonya's, because he's going to be trying to coordinate these flank plays for LGD. The more spread out you are against the likes of a Galio and also this Ornn, the more difficult it is for this front-to-back style you're talking about to work for JDG.
So clearing the vision here on the side of JDG. They're just going to start this Baron off. TP comes out from Zoom as well. There's no TP available for Langx, so he's a long way away from the play. Peanut is here, and he is the king of the smites. He's the king of thieves, and he might just look to try and make it happen once again. He's taken by xiye of all people, and LGD, they get away with it as always. There's one pick. What more can JDG find here? Mark going to be the target here, knocked up and should be taken out as well. 2 kills, but it's a Baron for LGD.
The double smite is the deadliest. xiye with the unsealed spellbook nicks it away right under the nose of Kanavi. And LGD have been slowly but surely denying these victories from JDG. But now, JDG looking to press the attack with 2 members of LGD dead.
Well, if Peanut is the king of thieves, then xiye is definitely the prince of thieves, because sliding into the pit there, grabs himself the smite, and that steal might just set the pace of this game now for LGD, because they just get to buy so much more time.
And level 16 has been hit by this Kayle. Now LGD are going to feel comfortable to fight, but xiye, everyone is focused on Peanut, including ourselves, but that splash into the pit smites away the Baron, and then at that stage, LGD, it's every man for himself. Get to the hills, get home, because no one wants to get caught by JDG.
And just look at the items from Peanut here. He realizes this is not an aggressive Lee Sin game.
No.
This is a survive and play peel Lee Sin game. He's gone for a Thorn Mail as his second item here.
Level 16 on Langx, as we talked about though. Dragon in 10 seconds. LGD now primed to fight. It comes down to execution. JDG need to hold on until this Call of the Forge God is up for Zoom though.
Armor penetration already picked up by Kramer as well. He knows he has to deal with this Ornn, but dealing with an Ornn is not easy when you're playing Jhin. Call of the Forge God available in just 1 second here. Zoom pops it on cooldown. Straight towards the Dragon. It is going to be smited. Taken here by Yagao. And now they're on to Peanut as well. The team fight might just go the way of JDG if they can lock everybody up. Langx staying alive for now. The taunt wasn't enough. LvMao closes the gap as Peanut gets yet another kill. Now trying to chase down onto Kramer, but Kanavi keeps himself safe. Locked down, but the Lamb's Respite keeps him safe, and Langx can't finish off these kills. He's trying his damnedest, but his damnedest ain't enough. And now Kramer tries to escape from the play, but he's being chased down by everyone and their mums. LvMao might finish the kill, but it's a triple kill on the Ornn.
And this is where JDG find the front-to-back fight they needed. Kanavi is running for the base, a TP towards mid, as they want to try and crack open LGD.
And it may not have been a perfect fight. It might have been messy, but JDG, they pulled it off and they didn't take a single casualty. The Baron no longer a factor, and they can grab themselves some towers.
Not quite able to get to the base yet though. You see the respawn timers coming in on LGD side. They will be able to protect themselves. Is Mark?
Mark needs to be a little cautious there. We'll get out with the dredge line. Kanavi can't quite finish off that tower. He's out of mana right now. He needs to be careful. Teleport being channeled as they're trying to force a play. They're trying to punish the JDG jungler. Peanut jumps on in with the Thornmail. There's no way that Kanavi can turn that one around. It's an easy kill for xiye.
And now LGD can try and bounce back, push in this mid lane, get that mid lane structure, and try and get these waves in order. This is going to be a replay of that fight, and you can see here, xiye does a good job of getting the stun onto LvMao, so he can't follow up. But the issue is, there's just so many tanky members on JDG right now. Zoom and Yagao playing front line, Kramer can't get through them, and the only real damage source right now is Langx, who is focused by JDG. He drops, and JDG can close out the fight.
You know what? The Divine Judgment's great and everything, but so's Lamb's Respite. Yeah. You can stay invincible, so can my entire team. And Kramer, he's playing Jhin, which is great when you're against a squishy team. But when you've got an Ornn and a Galio and a Leona to deal with, you're never getting any damage out.
And the thing is, LGD not able to find that fight now puts a little bit of worry in them, because you're going to have that next dragon coming up in just 2.5 minutes, where you've now got a bunch of gold that's suddenly gone the way of JDG. The good news for them, though, is Langx has just finished his Quinsu's Rage Blade. We're still waiting on a few more of those core items, like that Infinity Edge for Kramer, though.
Peanut looking for an opportunity here. As an arrow went out, trying to find xiye, and Peanut has to dash away from the play instead. So both attempts at an engage go wide on either side of the fight.
And Peanut is struggling this game. Unable to find those early game advantages that you want as Lee Sin. He's gone for, as he talks about, this tank build, but now doesn't really provide a backline threat apart from some sort of kick, which JDG are doing a fantastic job of dealing with thanks to this Galio.
And I want to revisit the build that we're seeing out of LoKen as well, that we mentioned right at the start of the game. The Essence Reaver came out first. He's completely forgone any lifesteal. He's gone for this crit Ashe, which is an older build. There's a lot of damage against opponents that aren't that tanky. That describes this entire lineup for LGD.
Especially as you talked about, the crits are so good on the Ashe because you crit off of every auto. Now, you do get the reduced damage with the Infinity Edge, but still, this is a build that does give a lot more damage in the Ashes than you're used to on the LPL Summoners Rift.
See Kanavi moving in on towards xiye here. Bit of an aggressive move into the jungle, but the ward was killed anyway. And you can see JDG, they're aware of the situation. Baron's coming up in 35 seconds. They're trying to make sure that they are the ones in control of the area, and it's LGD that have to check into them.
And I think for LGD, this is where it gets tough. I honestly think you just opt into side lane split push with Langx and xiye at all points in time. Like you can see, Zoom cannot deal with Langx, so as long as you are keeping the main engage tool of Zoom out of the equation, LGD's time in trying to push these wave back, get control of the mid lane, becomes a lot easier.
Or they can just make a fight happen on towards this bottom side of the map. Langx going to be slowed down, has to use his ult immediately, but the CC lasts for days. Kanavi is there as well. Everybody's here to take down Langx. With the jungler on the bottom side, though, doesn't look like LGD are going to try and make a rush happen.
They don't have a fast enough Baron. When you've got a Twisted Fate and a Jhin, that's not exactly the quickest Baron take in the world. So JDG still able to move across. They get control. When Langx down, they start up the Baron.
I guess we're just going to do Baron then. Peanut is available. So is xiye, and he was the one that stole it last time around. Peanut over the wall, will be spotted out. JDG, sorry, have vision. They were just looking for a fight, though. They're going to force this one back as they take the Baron for themselves. Yagao dodging away from the root. xiye trying to get a stun over the wall, but Zoom is quite happy to tank a gold card or two, and straight now towards this dragon.
10 seconds on Langx. xiye is backing, has the Destiny to join in. This is where they could potentially find multiple flank angles. There's the Destiny to get xiye back in the position.
Destiny used incredibly early on this one. They've got to try and make the steal happen. It's going to go down too quick, though. That was the last chance for LGD, and now the fight in favor of JDG. If they can find the tugs, though, but the Lamb's Respite used incredibly early. Peanut forced out the backside of the fight. Mark happy to tank on the front line. But there's a stun on xiye. Has to use his Sonias. Now a kill goes the way along Langx as well. He's trying to carry the fight, but he doesn't have the damage just yet. The kills are coming out. Taunt on xiye. It's all about Zoom, apparently, who seems to be the carry for the side of JDG, but there's another one for xiye. The mid laner going huge on the side of LGD, and Zoom suddenly last man standing.
JDG clumped up perfectly for Langx. If you can bypass Zoom, You bypass those tanky stacks on JDG, and LGD are able to get to that back line, get to LoKen, and kill off the hopes of JDG in that fight.
We have had some of the least effective Barons in the history of the world in this series. We saw LGD get the Baron, immediately lose a fight. Same story for JD.
And watch here for JDG. They all plump up perfectly for Langx. So with that Quincy's Rage Blade tearing through people, xiye is threatening LoKen on this backline, so LoKen isn't able to properly get into this fight. And from that point forward, LGD can move in and start to clear out those backline health bars.
You see Zoom just playing Assassin on towards the Jhin, but xiye in the meantime finds himself a triple kill in all of that action. Langx was playing distraction, so was Peanut, so was Mark, and it meant that xiye could do whatever he wanted.
And you can see the damage on your screen there. A lot being churned out by Kramer, a lot being churned out by Langx. And you got to be careful as JDG that you aren't opting into these close quarter fights, especially if you're not going to be able to throw Call of the Forge God through, because with that wave damage that Langx's churning out, it is so damn potent.
And Langx is only going to get scarier across this game, but it's important to mention that that Mountain Soul, that ain't going away. That's staying for the rest of the game now. JDG are going to be very difficult to deal with if they find a correct engage.
You can already see, though, that there's the options to go towards the armor pen. Oh, hang on.
Zoom, this is not a 1v4 that you can take, my friend. You might be tanky, but maybe he is tanky enough. I'm completely wrong. Zoom barely took a scratch.
Yeah, this is where you get to super late game Ornn. Actually opting to go even further into those tank stats, but Peanut.
Not even a stone plate needed. Peanut's the target now. Divine Judgment is going to keep him alive for now, as Kanavi is 1v4 on the backside while Langx gets taken down. Lamb's respite to keep Kanavi alive as he finishes off Mark. JDG, what a way to start this series. Clean team fighting, clean objectives, aside from maybe one steal or two. And now straight on towards the Nexus as well, 17-8. And Zoom is practically unkillable at this stage with his Warmogs in his pocket. On towards the Nexus as Peanut desperately escapes the play. This Nexus will fall, and game number 1 goes the way of JDG.
JDG